Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. Yesterday afternoon saw the 2022 NHL Free Agency window kick off with a bang, and whilst the numerous signings both surprised and excited fans, some of them weren't nearly as shocking as others. In fact, thanks to the handful of insiders from various media outlets across the league, fans already knew where some of the biggest names were signing before free agency even began. Now while there's nothing inherently wrong with what these insiders are reporting, and while this is far from being the hockey world's biggest issue right now, given that free agency is one of the most eagerly anticipated events in the NHL's yearly calendar, and given that a lot of its hype surrounds finding out who signs where and for how much money, learning all of this information on Twitter several hours before the free agency window has opened kinda takes a lot of fun out of it and ruins the intrigue from the whole event. After all, watching something for the first time is a lot less fun if you already know how it ends, right guys? But why is this such a problem? What's wrong with the way free agency is currently reported on, and how would I do things differently? Well, let's take a look at how it all works and try to figure it out, shall we? So in today's video, allow me to explain why NHL insiders ruin free agency. Now, in order to understand my complaints surrounding the event, let's explore the biggest reason why I think NHL insiders ruin free agency, and that is because they spoil some of the biggest announcements of the day before the event has even started. Now, the 2022 free agency window opened up at 12 PM Eastern Time on Wednesday, July 13th, but thanks to the reporting of several notable insiders, we already knew where some of the top names were signing, for how long they were going to be there, and for how much money too. For example, Kevin Weeks reported that Jack Campbell was set to sign a 5-year, $5 million a year contract with the Edmonton Oilers at 12:34 AM Eastern Time, while Darren Drager reported that forward Andrew Kopp would sign with the Detroit Red Wings at 8:25 AM Eastern Time, both of which happened many hours before free agency opened up later that day. Not only that, Andy Strickland reported that goaltender Martin Jones would be signing with the Seattle Kraken at 11:07 AM, less than an hour before free agency opened, while Arthur Staple of The Athletic reported that goaltender Ilya Samsonov was headed to Toronto 39 minutes before free agency began. So just like that, we already know where two of the biggest names in this year's free agency class are signing before the event has even begun. What's the point in hyping up the 12 PM start time if many deals are all but finalised before it even begins? Could you imagine if they did something similar with the NHL entry draft? Could you imagine if they announced all of the different picks in the exact right order, as well as all of the different trades that were going to take place that day before the draft had even started? The event wouldn't be nearly as entertaining as it is, would it, folks? At least the first round would take less than 4 hours though. God, that was bloody awful. But why do these insiders release this information before free agency starts? Well, I imagine that it's probably due to one of three reasons. Either A, they are journalists and it's their job to report the information that their various sources provide to them as they give it to them. B, they want to be the first person to release the information, as being first is far more important than anything else. Or C, they know how much buzz there is around free agency, and an early post before the window opens does wonders for their engagement numbers, both on their social media, as well as the various other accounts that repost or react to what they say. Now, if you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an element of truth in all of these reasons. After all, these insiders are hired to report what their contacts tell them. They want to be known as a reliable yet exclusive source of information, and they probably have to generate a certain level of engagement in order to be considered worth employing on a more permanent basis. And what better way to get all of this than by giving the inside scoop on where a top free agent is signing before the event begins? I may not always agree with it, but I certainly understand the reasoning behind it, you know. Now, some of you may argue that none of this really matters in the grand scheme of things, and that it's better to know when a deal has been agreed upon as soon as possible. And whilst I can certainly understand where you guys are coming from, by that logic, why not start free agency immediately after the draft is over? After all, it's pretty obvious that many free agents have already been talking to teams since the draft last week. Why not let them sign a contract sooner if they've already agreed it with a team? Isn't that tampering, Odd Man Rush? Aren't teams forbidden from negotiating with upcoming free agents until the window actually begins? Surely they should be punished for talking to them beforehand, right? While you might be right in thinking this, folks, it all depends on whether teams have allowed their impending free agents to begin negotiating with other teams before the window opens. For example, the New York Rangers gave Andrew Copp and Ryan Strome permission to start shopping themselves around and test the market, as they were aware that they might not be able to sign them to the length or the yearly salary that they wanted, so they allowed them to start the process with other teams early out of respect for their outgoing assets. However, this isn't always the case, and it would be really interesting to know if any potential signings are blocked from being reported on until free agency opens because of any potential tampering allegations that may arise because of it. That said, if you think that upcoming free agents aren't having discussions with other teams when they're technically not supposed to, I don't really know what to tell you, folks. It's pretty obvious that they are, especially given the sizable number of deals that are reported on before free agency opens every single year. So you've told us everything you dislike about it, Odd Man Rush, but how would you fix it? What would you do differently? Well, for starters, I don't think any deal should be finalised or officially announced until free agency actually opens at midday. Now, if a certain team emerges as a frontrunner for somebody, or a player is looking for a certain salary on their next deal, then reporting that information is absolutely fair game. But I don't think we should know exactly who they're signing with, exactly how long the contract is, and exactly how much money they will make before free agency starts, as it removes all the excitement from the event. After all, what's the point in tuning into a live broadcast or eagerly anticipating free agency if we already know who's going where and for how much money? Why make such a big deal about it if we've already seen the news on Twitter several hours, if not days before? Also, once free agency actually begins, insiders shouldn't tweet about a specific free agent until they have received confirmation that a deal has been agreed upon. Nobody cares whether talks heat up between two sides unless they actually result in a contract being signed, you know? I mean, look at just how hyped Philadelphia Flyers fans, New Jersey Devils fans, and New York Islanders fans got over the potential signing of Johnny Gaudreau yesterday, only for him to shock the entire hockey world by signing with the Columbus Blue Jackets instead. I don't care if he had good talks with certain teams, and I certainly don't care if he has a personal connection with a certain city in America. Don't get people's hopes up for absolutely no reason and stir up rumours only to disappoint them at the last moment. Tell us when a deal has actually been made, okay? Whether you share my sentiments or not is entirely up to you, and I can certainly understand if you don't. But I think we can all agree that free agency is one of the most exciting events in the NHL's yearly calendar, and the league should do everything it can to make it both as engaging and entertaining as possible. And perhaps letting league insiders spoil several of the biggest signings of the day hours before the event takes place isn't the best way to do that, you know? Am I nitpicking over a really minor situation here? Yeah, I probably am, to be honest. Is this whole thing that big of a deal? Absolutely not. But did I make an entire video complaining about it anyway? You're damn right I did, folks. And on that note, I'm going to end today's video. Those were my thoughts on why NHL insiders ruin free agency. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Do you agree that knowing the information beforehand ruins the whole event? Or do you think that I'm talking absolute rubbish? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Clayton Hallam, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Lucas Gates, Raquel, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.